Hey friends, hey, it's Lisa from Black Women Stitch and the Stitch Please podcast. And do you want to stay in the loop with everything Black Women Stitch? Sure you do. So our weekly newsletter is where it's at. You'll get podcast updates, community news, behind the scenes peeks, and ways to support the work we're doing. Whether you're a longtime listener or just getting to know us, this is the easiest way to stay connected. So click the link and sign up today. Promise we will not flood your inbox, just your creative spirit. Thanks so much. See you soon.
Hello, Stitchers. Welcome to Stitch Please, the official podcast of Black Women Stitch, the sewing group where Black Lives Matter. I'm your host, Lisa Woolford. I'm a fourth-generation sewing enthusiast with more than 20 years of sewing experience. I am looking forward to today's conversation, so sit back, relax, and get ready to get your stitch together.
Hey friends, hey, it's Lisa from Black Women Stitch and the Stitch Please podcast, and I am delighted to bring you a very special guest. And as you know how we say this is a very special episode, this is a very special episode because I am introducing to this wonderful Stitch Please audience none other than Tian Connaughton. She is a knitwear designer, a writer, a technical editor, a coach, an all-around amazing creative person. I think about Tian as knitting itself. She's got all of these variety of creative interests, and she is able to knit them together into something durable, beautiful, creative, and affirming. Welcome to the Stitch Please podcast, Tian Connaughton. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me here, Lisa. I really appreciate it, especially that intro. I need to record that and put it on something so I can hey, this is who I am. Because when you say it, it doesn't feel like I'm like, oh, really? That's me? Wow, she's amazing.
Yes, that is you. Yes, that is you. So let's just get into it. Tell me your stitching story. How did stitching come into your creative life?
Okay, so it goes back to 2001.
Okay.
Just got married, went off on honeymoon, came back, and there's a new woman at my job. And I'm like, oh, she's an older woman. She's probably 30 years older than I was at the time. And she's crocheting. And I'm like, oh, well, she's old. She's crocheting. But then, we would be in the break room and she'd be just stitching and talking and stitching and she'd be making eye contact. And I'm like, all right, I have to try this because 2001 fall, we all know what was happening. And we would just be watching the news and she'd just be stitching and talking. And I was like, let's try this. I'm not old. I was only 21. I was like, I'm not old. Let's try this. And I got hooked. Literally got hooked on crocheting. And then, that just took off. If you were having a baby, you're getting a blanket. You're getting married, you're getting a blanket. You're having a birthday, you're getting a blanket. So I would just be stitching all the time, going to Walmart because Walmart was right down the road. We'd go in, we'd get whatever the yarn was at the time, and we'd just sit and stitch all through break. I'd go home, I'd be stitching. And it was just that is how it started. I wish I had the story of sitting at my grandmother's knees, and I don't have that. I learned from an older woman at my job, and it started there. And then my mother-in-law, who is an avid knitter, she would always be like, come on over to the dark side, come knit. And I'm like, bruh, I don't need 2 needles. 1 hook and yarn was plenty because all that that looked too complicated. But after my son was born, a few years later, I decided I didn't want to be in corporate anymore. I wanted to be the stay-at-home mom, did that thing. That was boring as heck. Because little babies don't do much. And I was so bored, I started watching Home and Garden Channel. There was a show on there called Nitty Gritty, and they were knitting, and I picked up knitting through that. And then, that impressed my mother-in-law even more because she always wanted me to learn. And then I was knitting and crocheting for a while, just doing my own thing. And then one day I was watching that show, Nitty Gritty, and a Black woman was on there.
Oh.
And she was a designer. Shirley Payton. I will never
Wow.
forget seeing her, and I was like, she could be my sister. She could be like an aunt. And she's doing this and making patterns. And from there, it was just like, if I could see her doing that, I could do it.
I love your story. Even though you say it's not like one of these ancestral inheritances, it is something that you were able to pick up and value how the woman that was doing the crochet, it was during a very intense time. This was after the September 11th attacks, and it was a lot of very anxiety provoking news. She was able to crochet through that and still look you in the eye and have a conversation. So it feels like there was something about that, or was it something, did it bring you a certain kind of calm as you were watching the news? So it's almost like you were introduced to almost maybe the artistic and the therapeutic properties of crochet.
Absolutely.
Do you think that's something that helped to shape your development as an artist moving forward?
Absolutely, because I was working in finance, and finance is notoriously a very intense space. And we're talking about like imaginary money. We're not touching the money, but we're moving it around all day. So having that tangible thing to like really hold on to during that tumultuous time was like so amazing for me that I didn't even realize it till like years later. I was like, you know what? Whenever something bad happened, I go back to my yarn. I go back to the hook. I go back to knitting. Whatever is going on, I can always jump right back into fiber.
I think that is so powerful because it's an invitation to remind us that at any time we have the power to just kind of center, to calm down. And the idea of having something that you can kind of pick up and it helps you to come back to yourself. It really very much sounds like what they say about yoga or meditation, like coming back to your breath,
Absolutely.
remembering that you still have that. And for you, you've been able to use the beautiful tactility of yarn and a hook and needles as the thing that will help you make your way through something.
It's something you can actually hold on to, because we're all on social media all day, and it's like, oh yeah, we're having these conversations and we're doing all these things, but to come back to this physical thing that you could touch, you could feel, you could just like pull the yarn and feel it through your fingertips. That is a powerful thing that I don't think a lot of people who don't knit and crochet and craft really understand how magical it all is.
And I wonder if that is something that I was reading a feature about you in Ravelry, and this was back in 2019. So this is like 18 years later. You are in Ravelry being featured as, I think they call it the Humans of Ravelry, and they described you as an unstoppable force. And let me just quote, this is a quote. It says, all around unstoppable force, because you work across design, you do tech editing, blogging, knit-alongs, social media, and business consulting. What they didn't mention is something I love a lot, is the fiction writing as well. So we're definitely going to get into that. But talk about what this means to kind of pull together all these different elements. What was the journey between, I don't know if I want to crochet, or now I love it, but knitting feels a little hard, but now I love it, to being an all-around unstoppable force?
I don't know. It's weird, because I was one of those kids in the gifted and talented program in school. Mm-hmm. And if you're one of those kids, you know the traumas that come with that.
Yes.
But I think for me, it's really about understanding, like, I can't fail at anything. Everything I've ever tried, I've always achieved it. I might have not done it really, really well, and it might have not come easily at first. But if I want it, I'm going to work towards it to get it.
That's right.
My philosophy these days have been like, I'm just going to make a decision and go for it. And I'm not going to overthink it too much. I'm not going to be like doing like the total analysis. I'm going to go for it and know that I'm taking one step forward. And then once I get to that place, okay, I can look around and see, okay, where else do I want to go? Yeah. Right. So it's about making steps. So everything I've done since 2001, it's like, all right, I'm going to take a step. evaluate where I am. Do I like it? I like crocheting, so I stuck with it. I took another step, knitting. Okay, it's not that bad, 2 sticks. But I did it. And then I started designing. Because I saw that Black woman who was designing. I was like, if she can do it, I can do it. And I don't mean that in a weird way. Like,
no,
it was just like, wow, she can do it. I can do it. So I want to be that for the next person coming up behind me.
Yes.
Right? And then when I got laid off back in 2012, I was just like, all right, I could go back to this 90-minute one-way commute every day, all the way to a different state, leave my kid, or I could try to make this thing work. And it's always been take one step. So I went into designing with publications, which is more, you make more money than self-publishing. Then I went into tech editing. That gave me a little boost to understand more about the industry. Then I started creating content around that to share with people coming up behind me. I have a free course. It's a 6-part course that I created during the pandemic. I was like, I'm publishing with all these magazines and publications and working with all these folks. I'm going to share that. So I created a free course that's out there right now, 6 parts, just like more than 6 hours of interviews and conversation with publishers, because I want to show other folks that look like me that you don't have to just do it the way people have always said to do it. Right.
And I agree with that 100%. And here's why. There's a concept called possibility models. And it rests in the idea that it is difficult to become something you have never seen. If you've never seen it, it is very hard to become it. And that Black woman coming onto that knitting program on television was just a simple affirmation, just like I believe our conversation right now will be a simple affirmation for some young Black person, some young person who wants to give it a try but isn't sure how to go about it. Young person, old person, any
or
person.
Old person,
right?
Exactly.
The idea that we have Black folks doing things publicly and out in the beautiful open, and that's not even something that's like a big deal. Like, of course we do this. Of course I do this.
Of course.
I think that's so significant. It reminds me of, there was a campaign back in the knitting and stitching community a few years ago, and it was called Show Me Your Hands. And the Show Me Your Hands campaign was interesting to me because when you think about show me your hands, it feels very much like a negative demand from like the police. So we think about just the carceral state and just how negative that can be. But in this case, it was really beautiful. It was essentially Black women, I think Latinx women, other folks showing the color of their hands doing this work, because typically what we see is white hands. And I don't know, I just really appreciated that. Can you talk a bit about why Black visibility is important to you, not only as someone who has benefited from it and is now creating it? What do you hope to produce for those who are coming back behind you? And that's what I think the 6-hour course is, just the tip of the iceberg of all the things that you've done.
Yeah. So I like to see us in spaces that people don't expect us to be in. We know that there are Black and brown knitters, crocheters out there, but we don't see that. So when we are creating, we feel like if it doesn't look a certain way, it's not good. Or it doesn't belong. I like seeing those Black crocheters who have all the stylish crochet garments. And I'm like, it's not my style, because I think I'm a little older than a lot of them. But when I see that, I'm like, I don't see that in like the traditional crochet magazines. You see like the same old stale patterns. And then you see this whole other side that no one's promoting. No one's like amplifying. And it looks so amazing. It's like streetwear. It's like cultural wear. It's amazing. And I want to be able to say, just because you don't see people that look like you, we're out here. You might just see me, but know that I am like featuring other folks that look like me. In that 6-part series, I interview knitters and crocheters who are Black and brown, who are non-white. I interview people who are just like, hey, we are out here. We can do this. And I'm not saying to go copy anybody or follow anybody, but use it as like an inspiration. If you see somebody who is designing something, maybe you don't want to design, but know that they're doing something that they want to do. So what do you want to do?
Yes.
And reach out to folks.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That's the number one question in my book. My new book, Design to Sell. In the intro, I have in there, the first question is, what do you want?
Yes.
What do you want? And I don't care about, it might not look like what I want. It's what you want. If you start from that question, the sky's the limit. Beyond the sky's the limit.
I really appreciate the way that you are empowering folks through business strategy. That in the same way that you developed your skills, your creative skills, your knitting skills, the tech editing skills, and now you are turning that into a way to support other folks and helping them to develop their own creative muscles. And I think one of the ways you describe it is you're trying to help people turn expensive hobbies into profitable and thriving businesses. You've got systems, you've got mindset shifts, simplification. What is one of the most surprising mindset changes that you've seen in a client that fundamentally, changed how they run their business? Hey friends, hey, it's Lisa from Black Women Stitch and the Stitch Please podcast. Our Patreon community is growing and we'd love to have you in it. We recently updated our membership tiers and now it's easier than ever to support the work of Black Women Stitch while getting exclusive perks just for you. You'll find full-length talks, behind-the-scenes updates, bonus episodes, and access to videos from the podcast and beyond. Your support helps fund the podcast, pay our team, and keep this movement going strong. Every dollar truly makes a difference. So if you've been thinking about joining, now is the perfect time. Black organizations face increasing funding challenges. Community support closes that gap. Head to our Patreon community and choose the tier that feels right for you. And thank you.
All right. So I've been working with this one client. She's an older woman. And she used to, she designed knit patterns. And we've been working together one-on-one coaching a lot. And the thing that she mentioned, like in one of our sessions, is like, I just launched a new pattern and this is the most I've ever made. Combined with everything else that she's made, this one pattern is making more than everything else she's made put together. And I don't want to just say, oh, it's going to happen for everybody if you do this, X, Y, and Z. There is no do this, get this. It's about the consistency. It's about showing up. It's about really understanding, what do you want? What can you do in the time that you have to reach the audience out there that is for you? Because your audience might not be my audience, but you actually really need to understand who's your audience so you can have those conversations with them and put your stuff in front of them.
It kind of goes right back to your showing up philosophy, which is something you talked about in a blog post on August 27th of this year. And it was called Why Showing Up Matters Even When No One's Watching. And you emphasize persistence, authenticity. Now, how has this philosophy shown up in your own business journey? How do you encourage clients to kind of embrace that when engagement could be low or you feel like you lack confidence? How have you shown up and how do you help get your clients to show up?
So before I had 11,000 followers, I had 0 followers. Right? So we're all starting at 0.
Yes.
But for me, I'm off the mind where you start up where you are. And where you are right now is practice. I would hate for you to post one thing and have this viral moment and you don't have systems and processes in place and then you crash out. I want you to build those foundations when no one's looking. Because it's a safe sandbox for you to kind of play in, explore find your voice. I know you don't have to find your voice. Your voice is there, but for you to get comfortable in that voice that you have in your own language, when no one's looking, that is the best time to like just go out and explore and just be your authentic self. Because once people find you, then they already know who you are. And I don't want you to like have this meteoric rise and then crash out because everything happened so fast. You didn't have systems in place. You didn't have a foundation to land on. And now you're like, oh, I squandered this opportunity.
Wow. Yes. And so that in that way, the low engagement might not even matter because what you're trying to do is build a type of infrastructure, or it's kind of like the plumbing in the house versus the lawn out front.
Exactly. And I tell the story all the time. My father was a contractor. My father-in-law is a contractor. So I've seen houses get built and they don't just pour the foundation and then the next day they're going to start building. They got to let that cure. So what I really focus on is this building block kind of mentality. You build one block, you get really, really good at it, right? You let that really cure. Then you kind of plateau because you're like, you have systems in place, it's running at optimal, and then you try to do more. You just keep adding on, but you don't add on when everything is crumbling below, when everything isn't strong enough, right? So if you're going to start like your email list, start small. Maybe you start with a free one, see how that's working, and then do the paid one where you can add more bells and whistles. But don't just jump into something and be like, all right, I'm here. I'm fully fleshed out, because you're not.
Right. And I think that I think it reminds me of the idea that, or the phrase I've heard, that comparison is the thief of joy. And I really think that social media is a hotbed of anxiety and FOMO and comparison and, oh, this person has done this and, oh, they've done that and she's did this and he did that. And my goal has always been to keep my eye on my own paper. How do you help people or advise people to concentrate on their own path and not get distracted by what everybody else is doing?
Yeah. So when I start with my coaching clients, we talk about what's your vision. Where do you want to be? If you are a mom and you want to be able to come home earlier from work and have that time with your kid, do you want to be able to make dinner? I mean, it doesn't have to be anything massive. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I want to make $100,000 in 2 weeks. No.
So would I.
You know,
listen, Tian, if you know how to do that and you are sitting on that secret and not telling me, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be mad at you.
You know what? If I did have it, I wouldn't tell you, because a lot of us don't even know how to manage $10. But that's a whole nother conversation.
I can manage $100K. I have foundations. I could do it. I just ask the Lord all the time just to prove that I could be the person that proves having a lot of money doesn't make you a bad person. I would be so nice. I would
want
be so
to,
good.
But I wonder if I really would.
I would. I would. I'd be really good. Oh my gosh, I'd be so nice to everybody because I wouldn't have to go to work or anything like that. Oh, I would
be nice because you wouldn't see me. I'll be on the island somewhere.
Yeah, that's a way to be nice and support with your dollars. Send money to causes and people and places and individuals that are falling in the gap. I do that now, and I don't even make $100,000 in 2 weeks. So I mean, yeah. I'm just saying. Anyway, yay for us, we're good people. But the rest of us,
but yeah, I start out with like, what is your vision? Where do you want to be? And then we create a system to get you there, because where you want to be might be that you want to be able to make dinner every night. Like when I started out, I wanted to be able to go to every one of my kids' game practices.
Yes.
You know, when they have you in classroom, because in 2012, my kid was 8, 9. So I was in classrooms with them. I was going on those school trips,
field trips,
all those after school activities. I was there.
Yes.
And that was my vision.
Yes.
And through my knitting and crocheting, I got there. And now I'm still here. You know, he comes home, dinner's ready. My husband come home, we're cooking dinner. And that was my vision back in 2012. I didn't think it would grow to be much more than that. But that's where I want my audience to like think about, what do you want?
Yes.
Right. It doesn't have to be this big glamorous thing. I don't need a McMansion. I don't need a lake house.
Right.
I have a really nice garden. We built a pergola. We're making this our dream.
Yes.
So it's like, think about what you want and don't make it too complicated. And then just build systems to get you there. One step at a time.
I really do love that. I want to switch gears very quickly before we wrap up. You are also a fiction writer. And a fiction writer who is writing cozy mysteries starring a Black knitter. Show us the books again. Listen, you got to show the books if you want to sell the books. That's just the story. So she's got 2 novels, y'all. One is Death by Drop Spindle. And
that's the newest.
That's the latest. And what was the very first one? The
Magic Knitting Pattern Book.
The Magic Knitting Pattern Book. And the Magic Knitting Pattern Book is a story that also includes the pattern for the garment. And it just really brings the story to life in a really unique way in the magic book. Talk about how you created that story and what kind of scene you wanted to make and bring to life for Black knitters and knitters, all around the world.
Yeah, so I'm an avid reader. I've been reading since I used to read the back of cereal boxes, right? Yes. So I used to read a lot of different types of books. And as I got older, I was reading like mysteries and cozy mysteries. And I didn't see people that looked like me. Everybody was like in their 20s, early 30s, blonde, blue eye. And I was like, all right, I'm sick of imagining myself in those spaces. Right. So I used to read a lot of Agatha Christie. I still do. And I was like, you know what? She writes a lot of cozy mysteries that were just silly people. They weren't like magical people. They were just silly characters that just did things and just, and I was like, what if? So a lot of what I do starts with that question, what if? What if, I went into a yarn store and this happened and all the people in the store looked like me and not what typically people look like? What if you could just go into a yarn store and not have to prove as a Black person or a brown person that you were a knitter worthy of being shown the yarn? Because this recently happened to me. I was up in Vermont and I walked into the yarn shop and they didn't really acknowledge us. They didn't really say anything. I was walking around. They were helping somebody else. And after they helped that person, I thought they'd come and, show us around, like do all the things they were doing to the other person. But she went and she sat down. And I said to my husband, I think it's time for us to go. And with every story I write, I don't want my characters to have those experiences. I want them to walk into a yarn store, any store, and not have to put on their knit stuff to show that I am a knitter. They could just walk in and just be like, yeah, I deserve to be here. So every story I write, everything I do is to show that we belong here. We deserve to be here without proving to you that, we knit or crochet.
And what I love about what you've done is you have literally created through literature the environment that you want to thrive. And I think it's a bit of a trope in the knitting community that every city has 2 yarn shops. One is nice and one is mean. But what people don't think about as much is that whether it's the nice yarn shop or the mean yarn shop, if you are walking in there looking a certain way, being a Black woman, and sometimes being a man at all, being a queer person, however you might, live your life, it's not going to be seen as compatible with the art of knitting, which is, that's their problem as far as I'm concerned. That is their problem. And it is sadly their loss. When you talk, I think I remember you sharing this story on Insta, and I was thinking, I wish you had done that whole Pretty Woman thing in the movie where you kind of like pause and say, just so you know, I am a knitter. And it's like when she came back with all the bags and when the store snubbed her, she's like, big mistake, showing all the money she actually had. But like to say, look, not only am I a knitter, but I am a knit pattern designer. I am a tech editor. Do you understand what that means? I can tell when you have made a mistake because I know that much more than you.
And I was on a mission to buy because we had been driving all day and we're like, okay, we got checked into our hotel. We went to the shop. I was like, all right, let's go spend some money because it's, we're on a little vacation. And I was just like, womp womp.
It's so frustrating. I'm the same. I like wherever I go, I look for the 2 F's, food and fabric. That's where for real.
Well, we found the food and we're like, let's go find the yarn.
Listen, the food and fiber. Let's put food and fiber. I make my own souvenirs. I go someplace, I buy textiles, and it's like, oh, that's a cute dress. Look, I don't mean to sound like a snob, but I bought this fabric in Paris, girl. Look at it. Like that. So we're going to have to wrap up our lovely conversation from today. So let me ask you the question that I ask everyone of our wonderful guests. And it is this: the slogan of the Stitch Please podcast is that we will help you get your stitch together. Tian Connaughton, artist, pattern designer, business leader, fiction writer, tech editor. What advice do you have for us to help us get our stitch together?
Just take it one stitch at a time. One stitch. One row of the pattern, one line, just one step in front of the other. In everything I tell my clients, even my kid, one step. Look around. Is this where you want to be? And then you could pivot to wherever you want to be, but just one step. And if you don't like it, you can rip it out.
And on that note, thank you so much, Tian Connaughton, for being with us today. Tell us where we can find you on the social.
You can find me on Instagram. My social there is at Knit Designs by Tian, or my website is tianconnaughton.com. Thank you so much.
And show us the book. One last time,
Which
y'all.
one? Which one?
Listen. I want to see the latest one, Design to Sell. That is the newest book, and she is going to help you get your stitch together with that too. Thank you so much, Tian. We're so grateful.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Stitch Please, the official podcast of Black Women Stitch, the sewing group where Black Lives Matter. We appreciate you joining us this week and every week for stories that center Black women, girls, and femmes in sewing. We invite you to join the Black Women Stitch Patreon community with giving levels beginning at $5 a month. Your contributions help us bring the Stitch Please podcast to you every week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. And come back next week and we'll help you get your stitch together.